In the last few years, we've seen a lot of shows, movies, and books that speculate on what it would be like if you can find your soulmate through a scientific process. There was a 2009 movie named Timer where you would find your soulmate when a wristwatch timer ran down to 0. There was also a Black Mirror episode called Hang the DJ where they put couples together for allotted periods of time in a way that was basically controlled by someone higher up to help them find their soulmate. And then most recently, and probably most similar to the book I'm discussing today, was John Marr's book The One, where they developed an app that would biologically find your match, find your perfect soulmate, and allow you to meet the one. The John Marr's book took a dystopian view on what this would be like if we can biologically determine who was meant for us. However, the book that I'm discussing today by Christina Lauren, The Soulmate Equation, takes a more lighthearted approach to what something like this could be like. And it turns into a fun, fast-paced romance that's definitely worth the read. The Soulmate Equation follows a single mother named Jess that works as a freelance statistician. She's not really looking for love in her life. She's kind of putting that to the side. She has a 7-year-old daughter. When she's not working, she kind of wants to spend time with her daughter and with her grandparents that live just across the street. However, one day she and her friend go to this new company that is developing an app to find compatibility matches based off DNA, take a tour, and her friend gets really interested. Her friend buys her this kit to be one of the first people tested for this compatibility ranking. She takes it home and eventually decides to take a swab, because it's done through swab, and send it in after one day where she just feels especially lonely. Quickly, she finds out that this is going to change her life, because when she turns in that swab that she kind of basically turns in at a whim, she discovers that she is matched at the highest level with the app's leading geneticist and founder. However, it's a little bit complicated because she already has met this founder many times at their local coffee shop, and she does not initially have a great impression on who he is as a person. So with that, you kind of get a light enemies to lovers vibe in this book. I really enjoyed this book. I found it just light and fast-paced. I like the writer duo Christina Lauren and how they create just romances that feel good, you can easily bingeable, read it in one day, and it's just nice. Now, I wouldn't call this the most transformative text that I've read in the romance genre, but it definitely was nice and worth the read. On Goodreads, I was reading through a couple just reviews of how people were receiving the book, and one thing that I saw come up a couple times is a lot of people did not feel like the lovers, I guess, had chemistry. And I honestly like how it was handled in this book. Both of them are basically sort of introverts, and neither of them are looking for love at the time where it just kind of gets thrown into their laps and they're basically, in a way, coerced to pursue it. So I feel like in that situation, not having instant chemistry right off the bat is something that makes sense. If I was put in some other world situation and randomly matched up with someone, I don't feel like it would be automatic compatibility from the start, even if that's like the idea. So I think the fact that it's a little bit awkward in the beginning and kind of slows its way to a more thorough relationship was something that I personally thought was handled well. It would have been strange to me if two introverted nerds, one a geneticist and one a statistician that does not really talk to people that often, had like instant extroverted chemistry. That would have put me off. Now, there was definitely, I can see the transition to kind of like, or rather the progression of the chemistry. I thought the pacing was a little weird, and I can see criticism on that of the nothing there to something there. I didn't really like the transition between the two, but overall, I thought the chemistry was pretty good and pretty realistic for the type of characters we were following. I also like how the scientific process, comparing DNA, was focused not just on being attracted to someone or not just on like immediate chemistry, but also focused on what would lead to a long-lasting relationship. And I think it kind of showed that within the book, which is something that I thought was important to get into people's minds when you're thinking about relationships. That's not just the initial spark, which, yeah, definitely was different in this book just because of the personalities we were dealing with, but the long-term potential. And I thought that that was very sweet to include signs of a long-term potential within the book. And then, you know what? I've really enjoyed the dystopian takes that I've previously read on the same idea, but I also could appreciate this take because it wasn't dystopian. It was pretty positive overall, and it even talked about how even if like an app were to exist like that would show you compatibility ratings and base it off of DNA, there still is human decision and human agency. And in this book, it is mentioned several times that even if you have high compatibility, it's not like a set thing, it's not something that has to happen, but rather is still something that would depend on human choice and what they want to do with their lives and what type of relationships they'd want to pursue. So I think still leading that element in this book of it's still up to the humans to decide ultimately was what made this work as a normal romance novel and not turn quickly into the dystopian field. Now, there was definitely some things in this book that I thought could have been better. One thing that I thought was missing for me personally is you didn't really get to see that much intellectual chemistry or even deeper levels of emotional chemistry. For example, both of these characters are very, very smart individuals who have advanced well in their fields and are deep thinkers when you kind of see them individually thinking on their own, but you don't really get to see deep conversations between the two of them, which is something that I like to see in relationships. If you have two highly intelligent individuals, you'd expect them to have some deep conversations at some point in the story. That just didn't really happen here. So I was missing that element. The other thing that kind of made this book not be perfect, it was very formulaic. Kind of like you expect romance to go a certain way and have certain conflicts and have certain things occur. It felt like it was following a pretty strict formula that you've seen over and over and over again in romantic comedies and romance books, to where there wasn't really anything revolutionary about this. There wasn't really anything that new about this. It kind of felt like a little bit derivative from other works, even though obviously it could still stand on its own as a really fun thing, but not something that invents something new in the genre. So while I thought it was really fun and I really enjoyed it, it was worth every second I was reading it, it wouldn't be up there with my favorites. So my rating for this book was a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it as a romance. I really do like the Christina Lauren duo, and I look forward more to see what they put out in the future, but it still definitely has room where it could have been improved. Don't forget to like this video, and I'll see you later.